I used to stay up until 2 a.m. studying for exams I had the next day, and I was stressed out the whole time. Now, I literally take 1/10 of the time to study the same amount, if not more, and I promise to teach you exactly how I did so and how you can too by the end of this video with the 3 steps I followed myself. So step 1 is to stop taking breaks. Originally, I'd use the Pomodoro method while I was studying, or I would occasionally take breaks whenever I felt like I deserved one. There was so much wrong with this. When I use the Pomodoro method, which is when you work for 25 minutes and then take a 5-minute break and then repeat that, I would constantly think about the break for the whole 25 minutes. And then during the 5-minute break, I'd scroll on my phone and then the 5-minute timer went off. But I would keep scrolling, telling myself that I would go back to work in just a minute. And eventually 30 minutes or even an hour had passed and I hadn't gotten anything done. Then when I finally went back to study, I wouldn't even be able to focus back onto the work, so I would just give up. So I tried not taking any breaks instead. This was a bit harder to start since I knew I wasn't going to get any breaks going into the study session, but once I got into the flow, the time passed without me even realizing, and I got so much done. To transition from taking breaks while studying to not taking breaks, just gradually make the time you study without a break longer and longer until you take no breaks at all. So the next time you use the Pomodoro method or you want to take a break, just tell yourself to study for another 5 minutes before you take one. It's hard to stop taking breaks at first, but now I'm used to it and I can do it no problem. Step 2 will also help a lot with this, which is to study right after you wake up. Studying in the early morning is actually overpowered compared to studying at night for so many reasons. Number 1, your brain hasn't put its energy into any shallow work yet, like checking your phone or thinking about what clothes to wear or what to eat or anything. Your brain is at its max potential in the morning, since it hasn't gotten burnt out from all these shallow tasks, so it can put its full energy into learning rather than learning while your brain's tired later in the day. Number 2, there aren't any distractions. You aren't going to have many people message or call you in the early morning, and most people are still sleeping. And obviously less distractions means that you can focus on learning more and understanding the concepts better. For the rest of the day, there are much more distractions that will make your learning much slower. And number 3, you have more pressure to learn if it's in the morning. When you learn or study in the middle of the day or at night, you don't really have any pressure to do so since you could just put it off or you can stay up longer. Having less pressure sounds good, but if there's no pressure or an upcoming deadline, like an upcoming exam, that usually just leads to procrastination, so a little bit of pressure is actually good. But if you study in the early morning right before some exam that same day, you have pressure since you have to finish studying in time. Or in other words, you can't just put it off or work slowly. So every early morning learning session, which doesn't have to be the morning before a deadline, have a goal of what you're going to learn in mind and then pace yourself to complete it before a specific time. It took a few days for me to actually pressure myself instead of just giving up, but after a few days I got into the habit of doing it consistently. I experimented for a while with studying at many different times, but none even came close to studying in the early morning, so just learn from my mistakes and my experimenting. And the third step is to get adequate sleep. You already knew about this, but you probably don't actually get enough sleep consistently, and you'll naturally get more sleep now that you're not studying late at night. That being said, you need at least 7 hours of sleep every single night, no matter what, and 8 hours preferably. And yes, that extra hour matters a lot. You don't want to sleep below 7 hours consistently ever, but if it's a special occasion like you're going to a party or something, it's not a big deal. You just don't want to be consistently sleeping that little. Getting more sleep is actually more productive than any learning that you would do during that time instead. While you're sleeping, your brain puts what you learned that day into your memory, and it makes connections between what you learned that day and what you already know. If you sleep less, you're going to have a much worse memory, so what you lost sleep to learn is going to be useless anyways. So just as a summary, you will literally learn and study 10 times faster if you stop taking breaks, learn first thing in the morning, and get enough sleep no matter what. I have done all 3 of these things myself, and I can assure you that just doing these 3 things and doing them consistently will give you insane results with the speed that you'll learn at. That's about all I had to say, and thank you so much for listening.